Good evening, my name is Zach from the Ballot Box, and welcome to CNN coverage of Election Night 2024 between former President Donald J. Trump and sitting Vice President Kamala Harris. On your screen, you see the approvals of President Biden. And if we can pull it up now, we're going to see the approvals of Vice President Harris, I believe. Yes, there we go, 43 to 54. And then we'll also see the approvals of former President Donald Trump. We're going to get those numbers here, 44 to 53. And we're going to see some of the opinions on different issues concerning American voters tonight. Right now, before, we had the polls of 48 to 44%, 48% for Trump and 44% Biden. And then between for Harris and Trump, we have 48% Trump and 45% Harris. We're seeing that Trump did a little better. Harris and Trump both contested the states of Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. All 7 were considered pivotal for both campaigns, and both say that they're seeing good signs of heavy turnout. Harris and Trump both contested the states of Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. All 7 were considered pivotal for both campaigns, and both say that they are now seeing good signs of heavy turnout from their respective voters. Now, in just a few minutes, we'll have the first projections of the night. We're looking at Arizona, Georgia, with its 16 electoral votes. Key vote for the election. Both have gone hard. We see Wisconsin with 10 electoral votes, a state that voted for Trump in 2016 and Biden in 2020, a must-win state for both sides. And then we also see Michigan here, 15 electoral votes, again, voted for Trump in 2016 and Biden in 2020, a very important swing state. And then also, again, Pennsylvania, voted for Trump in 2016, Biden in 2020. Key swing state. North Carolina, which voted for Trump both times, going to be a huge victory for Harris if she can pull it off. Must defend territory for Donald Trump. Alright, stand by for CNN projection. It is now 7 p.m. Eastern. We have some key states closing their polls. We're able to make a projection. We will now project that former President Donald Trump will take Indiana's 11 electoral votes, winning the first batch of electoral votes of the night for the former president, along with Kentucky and its 8 electoral votes. Vice President Kamala Harris, we can project, will win Vermont in its 3 electoral votes. The electoral vote count stands at 19 to 3 as of right now. In the critical battleground of Georgia, we can project that it is too early to call. The same can be said in the Commonwealth of Virginia, which is also too early to call. The same can be said in South Carolina and its 9 electoral votes, which are too early to call. You can see live footage of the White House on your screen now as we witness a historic election, potentially ending with the first female president. We are just moments away from the 7:30 p.m. poll closing, where 37 electoral votes up for grabs, including from the critical state of North Carolina. We have a key race alert. CNN can now project that former President Trump wins the state of West Virginia and its 4 electoral votes. With West Virginia electoral votes tallied, the updated electoral vote count shows President Trump leading Vice President Harris 23 to 3. And we have another key race. CNN can say that the state of North Carolina and its 16 electoral votes are too early to call. We can say the same thing for the state of Ohio and its 17 electoral votes, the home of Trump running mate J.D. Vance. Meanwhile, the actual vote counts in the state of Georgia shows Kamala Harris leading Donald Trump by over 100,000 votes, despite just 9% of the vote in. In Florida, Trump takes an early lead over Harris, 51% to 45, with 41% of the vote in, around 500,000 votes, and change there for the former president. We're taking a look at the city of Cincinnati, Ohio, near where Vice Presidential running mate J.D. Vance grew up. At 8 p.m. Eastern, we have the critical battlegrounds of Florida, Pennsylvania, and New Hampshire closing, with a whopping 167 electoral votes, the biggest closing of the night. In approximately 15 seconds, we also see states here like Illinois, Missouri, etc. We will be looking at some of these. Some of these are swing states, some of these are safe states. Stand by for a CNN projection now. We can now project that Kamala Harris wins the state of Illinois, the home state of President Barack Obama. We can now project that the state of Maryland is now going for Vice President Kamala Harris and its 10 electoral votes. I believe, yes, now we have New Jersey and its 14 electoral votes going for Kamala Harris, and Massachusetts and its 10 electoral votes going for Vice President Kamala Harris, as well as Connecticut and its 7 electoral votes going for Kamala Harris. We have another call here. I believe we do. We have Rhode Island with its 4 electoral votes. Not a big win, but a necessary win for the Kamala Harris campaign, as well as President Biden's home state of Delaware with its 3 electoral votes going for Kamala Harris. And lastly, we have Washington, D.C. and its 3 electoral votes going for Kamala Harris. Not a lot of surprises here. Pretty essential wins. Now, we can project that Donald Trump also wins a slew of states in the upper and lower south, including Tennessee with its 11 electoral votes, Missouri with its 10 electoral votes, Alabama, we can get that up on the screen here, with I believe it's 9 electoral votes now going to former President Donald Trump, with South Carolina's 9 electoral votes also going for former President Donald Trump, and Oklahoma's 7 electoral votes going for former President Donald Trump. With these projections, we can say that President Donald Trump has 75 electoral votes to Vice President Harris 75. It's neck and neck right now. We have a key race alert again. We can say that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is too early to call. Too early to call in Pennsylvania. The same can be said for Florida and its massive 30 electoral votes. The trend continues in New Hampshire, which has 4 electoral votes, and the same can be said in Maine, which has 4 electoral votes. We can get that up on the screen, please. However, it is important to note that Maine splits its electoral votes similarly to Nebraska by congressional district. We have updated vote counts for you in the following states. Georgia shows Kamala Harris with a 75,000 vote lead over Donald Trump with 28% of the votes counted, mostly from the Atlanta metro area. Next is the state of Florida, where former President Donald Trump currently resides. He has a huge lead of over 1 million votes against Vice President Harris. The state of North Carolina has Vice President Harris up over the former president, with Harris reaching 57% to Trump's 39%, a 221,000 vote lead for Harris. And the last state, Virginia, has Trump up by 200,000 votes with 47% in, a large lead, but that is sure to be cut down due to Nova. As we head to Dallas, Texas, you can see that Vice President Harris has a commanding lead in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, which just released a vote count. In just a few seconds, the state of Arkansas and its 6 electoral votes closed, which are expected to go to former President Trump. 3, 2, and 1. 8:30 p.m. closing. Stand by for a CNN projection. We can now say at CNN that Donald Trump will win the state of Florida and its 30 electoral votes. It was close in 2016, then shifted again for Trump in 2020, and will now go for him a 3rd time in a row. Trump leads in Florida by over 1 million votes at this time. We can also project that the state of Arkansas and its 6 electoral votes will go to the former president, adding 36 more to the President Trump's total. Trump is at 111 to Harris's 75. And in the critical battleground of Georgia, we can say that Donald Trump has a lead of about 100,000 with 49% of the vote counted. Polls closed nearly 2 hours ago in Georgia. In the state of Ohio, with 49% of the vote counted, Donald Trump also leads 52 to 45, or 220,000 votes. In Virginia, Trump leads by over 300,000 votes, though we are told that votes from the northern Virginia suburbs are still yet to report, likely in favor of Harris. In the state of North Carolina, Vice President Harris leads President Trump by just 3,000 votes with 69% of the vote voting, a tight race. In Texas, Vice President Harris leads President Trump by 110,000 votes with 56% of the vote counted. A lot more to count in Texas. As the 9 p.m. closings arrive, we are heading to the city of Minneapolis, which is home to the biggest metroplex in Minnesota, which is considered a critical battleground that the Vice President needs to win. In just a few moments, the polls will close in critical states including Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Texas. About 15 seconds to go. 13, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. We have 163 electoral votes at stake here, folks. For CNN projection, we can now project that former President Donald Trump will win the state of Louisiana and its 9 electoral votes, 6 electoral votes in Kansas, and its 6 electoral votes for the former president. As we can see in the Dakotas, 3 electoral votes for President Trump. Next on to South Dakota, where there are 3 electoral votes for President Trump. Donald Trump also wins the state of Wyoming, where he won over 70% of the vote in 2020. That goes to Trump. In the state of Nebraska, the only other state to split its electoral votes, 3 out of 5 electoral votes go to the former president at this time. On to New York, a state that Trump campaign thought they could make competitive. They fell short. The same thing can be said in the state of Colorado and its 10 electoral votes. With these projections, the electoral map stands with Trump at 138, a little more than halfway to the magic number of 270, and Harris at 113. We have a key race alert. In the state of Arizona, we can deem it too early to call. This is the state that President Biden flipped for the first time as a Democrat since 1996. The Rust Belt state of Michigan is also too early to call. Trump won the state in 2016, lost in 2022. Key battleground, and in Wisconsin, same thing, also a key battleground. And in Minnesota, the state is also too early to call. Too early to call in Minnesota. State of Iowa, I believe, is also too early to call. Too early in Iowa. The last state here is the Lone Star state of Texas, a gigantic 40 electoral votes up for grabs tonight in states where votes are being counted. Georgia, we can say that Donald Trump has a 400,000 vote lead with over 2/3 of the vote counted. In Ohio, Trump leads. We can poll Ohio. Thank you. In Ohio, Trump leads 54% to 44% with 61% of the vote counted. 17 electoral votes up to grab there. Instead of North Carolina, Trump leads 51 to 48 with 80% of the votes counted, and nearly 200,000 vote lead in the Tar Heel state. In the state of Pennsylvania, with 39% of the vote reporting, Trump leads 55 to 44, and in the state of Texas, Trump leads Harris 54. In the state of Texas, 51 to 47, and then in Virginia, with 79% of the vote counted, Harris cut Trump's lead by over 200,000 votes since the last update. Now back to Wisconsin, we have. We went past Wisconsin. Now we have New Hampshire, where Harris is currently leading 49.4 to 47.7. 6,000 vote difference with 50% of the vote counted. We're traveling to the beautiful city of Phoenix, Arizona, where the polls just closed with already 40% of the vote counted. Harris leads Trump 58 to 42 in the purple battleground. Next, as we come up on the 10 p.m. poll closings, the critical state of Nevada is set to close. 16 electoral votes at stake here. And now we can officially say that Donald Trump will win the state of Ohio and its 17 electoral votes. Ohio, a state that backed Trump twice in 2016 and 2020, goes to him this time by over 10%. 640,000 vote lead for him there. In the state of Montana, we can say that Donald Trump will win the state's 4 electoral votes. The same can be said for the state of Utah and its 6 electoral votes. We have that on the screen now. We can say that Vice President Kamala Harris will win the state of New Mexico and its 5 electoral votes. Harris wins the state of New Mexico, wins the state with 51% of the vote, and Trump 46. With these updates, we can now say that Trump has 165 electoral votes to Harris's 118. As you can see here on the screen, we have the states that we have called filled in. Another key race alert: in the state of Nevada, CNN deems it too early to call between Harris and Trump. In the state of Georgia, Trump has 190,000 vote lead with 80% of the vote counted. In the state of Michigan, with 41% reporting, Trump has a 203,000 vote lead. However, there is barely more than 1/3 of the vote counted. In North Carolina, Donald Trump leads 52 to 47. In the state of Texas, Trump has a commanding lead at this point, 52.9 to 44.5. In Arizona, Harris leads Trump 57 to 42 with 50% of the vote reporting, a huge lead for the vice president in Arizona. In the state of Wisconsin, with a little over a third reporting, Harris leads 49.6 to 45.4, and in Minnesota, it's not even close, with Harris taking 60% of the vote. Now in New Hampshire, we have Kamala Harris leading by 49.6%, and in Virginia, we have Kamala Harris leading with 49.8% there. We are now traveling to the beautiful city of Houston, Texas, where the votes are still being counted quickly. Thank you so much for staying in, and now we can now say that former President Donald Trump will win Texas and its 40 huge electoral votes. The state that the Democrats thought they could put in play goes to Trump by a large margin of 52.9 to 44.2. This will fluctuate and change, but Texas will go to the former president. In 3 seconds, we will have the 78 electoral votes at stake on the western coast. We have enough information to say now that former President Trump wins the state of North Carolina and its 16 electoral votes. With 93% of the votes counted, Trump has a 200,000 vote lead, winning 51.6 to 47.8. Instead of Iowa, we see similar margins at 56.7 to 41.8, a little bit stronger of a lead for Donald Trump in the state of Iowa. And in Idaho, no surprise here, a big victory for Donald Trump, as well as Maine's 2nd congressional district. We're now projecting will go to former President Donald Trump. And a big call, we have Virginia here going to Vice President Kamala Harris by a margin of 52.5 to 46.2, 98% of the vote reporting, as well as New Hampshire we have going to Vice President Kamala Harris by a margin of 50.9 to 45.5. We see 89% of the vote in, and the state of Maine going to Vice President Kamala Harris, 50.3 to 46.7. Some big projections here, such as North Carolina, and we also have New York. We also have California, where Harris served as Attorney General. Then Vice President, she wins its 54 electoral votes in a landslide. In neighboring Oregon, same can be said for the state of Washington, with both no contests. The latest electoral numbers show Trump at 232 and Harris at 211. Major CNN projection. We can now project that Donald Trump will win the state of Georgia and its 16 electoral votes. A state that was considered a critical pickup for the Trump campaign now goes into the Trump column, flipping by around 2.8%. We expect that to narrow with 4% of the votes left, but we can declare Trump will flip the state of Georgia. In the states that are too close to call, we can say that Donald Trump has a 400,000 vote lead in the state of Pennsylvania, 56 to 41. Trump also leads in Michigan by 270,000 votes, with 22% of the votes left to count. And in Wisconsin, Trump has a lead of 147,000 with 66% of users reporting. In Arizona, Vice President Harris has a lead of 62,000 votes, with 31% of the vote left to count in the purple swing state, and Minnesota with 69% of the reported. Harris leads by 102,000 votes. In Nevada, with 50% of the vote, Harris leads 55.6 to 39.5 for the former president. 6 electoral votes up for grabs in Nevada. We are now going live to the city of Los Angeles, California, in the home state of Kamala Harris. In just a few moments, we will have the 12 p.m. poll closings, which have 4 electoral votes up for grabs in the state of Hawaii. Stand by for a major CNN projection. We can now project that former President Donald Trump will flip the state of Wisconsin, a state considered crucial to both campaigns on Trump's path to retake the White House. He wins with 49.6% of the vote to Harris's 48.5%. Instead of Minnesota, Harris will take its 10 electoral votes over the former president, winning with 50.7% of the vote, 110,000 vote win in Minnesota for the vice president. We can also project that Kamala Harris will win Hawaii's 4 electoral votes, an expected win for the vice president. We can say that Vice President Harris will win the 2nd District of Nebraska as well, and its similar electoral vote. Just like Maine's 2nd District, this could be pivotal in Harris's chances. Another CNN projection we have here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Trump still has a lead with 52% of the vote to Harris's 46.8%. In Michigan, Trump's lead has all but collapsed, with him leading by just 34,000 votes. And in the state of Arizona, with 89% of the vote in, Harris leads Trump by less than 20,000 votes at this time. And in Nevada, Trump is behind by less than 150 votes, a statistical tie in Nevada. We're now going live to the city of Miami, Florida, to await the 1 a.m. Eastern poll closing, where Alaska and its 3 electoral votes become up for grabs. In just a few moments, we will have the last poll closings of election night, and it's coming down to the wire. We can now project that Vice President Kamala Harris will win the state of Michigan and its 15 electoral votes. Harris's win in the Wolverine state over Trump by 33,000 votes, with 94% of the vote counted. Harris leads 49.6 to 48.7. This was considered a must-win for Kamala Harris, and the electoral map now stands at 258 for the former president and 241 for the vice president, with Michigan included. We can here say at CNN that Alaska is too early to call, and in Pennsylvania, we only have 5% of the vote left, and Trump has a 43,000 lead. In the state of Arizona, Trump has taken a lead of 16,000 votes, and in the state of Nevada, with 90% counted, Trump leads by 14,000 votes. Stand by for a major CNN projection. We can project that former President Donald Trump wins a 2nd non-consecutive term to the presidency of the United States. With Trump winning Pennsylvania and Alaska, he crossed over the 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. Trump won the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania by just 15,000 votes out of more than 6 million cast. With counties in the state moving to certify their vote counts, Trump is the projected winner. Trump also wins the state of Alaska and its 3 electoral votes, pushing the now president re-elect to 280 electoral votes, 10 more than he needed to win. In the state of Arizona, it's still too close to call, with Harris narrowing Trump's lead by 4,000 votes since the last update, with 3% outstanding. In Nevada, with 5% of the votes left to count, Trump has a 14,000 vote lead in the state, 48.2 for him. 48.2 for him and 46.7 for Trump. For the vice president, We have now footage of the vice president speaking to her supporters, saying that she has called President Trump to congratulate him on his victory and wishes him the best. You can now see the U.S. popular vote figure on your screen. With 94% of the total votes counted nationwide, Trump has received 47% of the vote, 1% higher than his failed 2020 re-election bid to the outgoing vice president at 50%. We have footage outside of the White House as some people react to this call by CNN and other networks. We can project that Vice President Kamala Harris holds on to the state of Arizona and its 11 electoral votes. Harris wins Arizona with 49% of the vote to Trump's 48.6, winning by 20,000 votes out of more than 3.3 million cast. In Nevada, we can project that Donald Trump wins Nevada as a Republican for the first time since 2004, winning the state by 1.7%. Trump received 48.9% to Harris's 47.2 when all the votes were done, with a Trump lead of 15,000. Trump's electoral tally sits at 286 electoral votes, Kamala Harris's 250. Trump flipped back in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Nevada. Here we have an acceptance speech by Trump thanking Harris for a concession and promising to get America back on track. You can see the final numbers there on your screen, with Trump winning in a slightly smaller victory than his first election 8 years ago, but improvement over his 2020 election loss. We can now see the final U.S. popular vote total with 98%, I believe, if it will come up on the screen, with 98% of the total votes counted nationwide. Trump has received 47.7% of the vote, once again winning the electoral vote without the popular vote, to the outgoing Vice President's 50.2. Thank you so much for watching CNN Election Night 2024 coverage.